You mentioned something around knowledge workers and the adoption of business intelligence and analytics tool. This is something that totally jives with the experience that I had working in an analytics company for many years, is that the data people love what they build, but getting, the knowledge workers to adopt it, that's really difficult. Now, I like what I've seen so far with Narrative BI's approach using AI to surface these insights to folks. Like, there's just always so much data. I think this is probably one of the biggest challenges for knowledge workers, is that the volume of data is massive. What do you see as AI's role in helping to democratize data for these knowledge workers? And how do you think that'll influence adoption of BI tools in the future?
Um, First of all, I'm a data nerd myself, so I personally enjoy using BI. But the problem with even modern natural language query tools is that in order to effectively use them, you need to have some level of data knowledge. Like you need to understand how the database is structured, what is the table names, column name, how are they related to each other. And data people knows that, but even if you use like most advanced natural language query input, you need to know how to ask questions. You need to have some level of understanding. And I don't believe a lot of non-technical people like marketers or executives possess this knowledge. So I don't believe that the chat approach itself will solve the adoption problem. However, I think the opportunity is to try to answer questions before people ask them, and generate insights more proactively based on previous history, based on some personalization, and this is where AI can help. By processing a lot of personalized data, modern AI-enabled solutions can surface insights that personalized for specific team, for specific role, or even for specific person. So I think this opportunity is even bigger than natural language query, which became relatively easy to implement with the development of a large language model.
Yeah, super interesting. You mentioned a couple things there I want to pull a thread on. I agree. I think like most marketers don't have like the SQL chops to go into Looker ML and build the type of stuff that they would want to without like an analyst or a data engineer coming in and helping out. But you've like your whole mission is that like analytics tools should be simple enough so that everyone can get insights, but not necessarily go in there and build like all potential dashboards that they could. But while this is somewhat easy to say for maybe like single sources of data, like GA or maybe like product analytics, oftentimes, like you said, the power of BI and these data experts is in the pipeline building and understanding how the data is structured, joining different tables together and combining some of that data. Do you think that we'll ever solve that piece of the puzzle? Like a world where not only like getting access to insights, but building pipelines end to end and joining data is simple enough that anyone can do it?
Um, I think I can answer with given some background from my personal experience. So when I was at ServiceNow, I worked closely with the BI team, and ServiceNow is a huge organization. And I talked to the BI team about their challenges, about their daily work, and they told me that there are three types of requests they deal with daily. First type of request is coming from HR managers, executives, different marketing, growth teams, and it's pretty basic. Like what the average revenue per user in some product line. Like very basic question. Like you can write an SQL like in a minute to get the answer. The second type of questions is more advanced, like you mentioned, which involves some data aggregation, some joins, or some more complex stuff, which can take maybe an hour or a couple of hours to clean the data, to pull it, to aggregate it. But still, it's relatively easy, and every data professional can do it. And the third type is more advanced. Like you need to do some research, you need to prepare data, you need to gather all this data, Eventually, you need to prepare some slides, outline some insights. So do a deep research work with actual insights, and it can take maybe even weeks to prepare. And I think the first type, most simple, and second can be automated. First one, if you can ask a question to your data team, you should be able to ask it in AI interface. Second, maybe more complex, but it's technically doable. Even ChatGPT can write SQL with joins, and we actually solved this problem at Friendly Data. The third one is more complex, and this is where I believe BI teams can bring most value. And I think if we can automate more basic stuff, it will be a win-win for everyone. Because right now, most of BI experts spend their time on addressing backlog and answering simple questions. They take a few minutes to answer, but when you have dozens or hundreds of such questions every day, it becomes a nightmare, and people who ask those questions, they are unsatisfied because they think it's a simple question. Why it take like few days
Yeah.
to answer? Because of the backlog. So if we can automate the simple or relatively simple stuff, it will be a win-win because business people will get quick answers, and BI people can focus on more advanced, more impactful things.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Like having used narrative BI for a couple of weeks now, some of the insights that we've received through like the product led email alerts aren't necessarily like questions that I had offhand. So while you were talking there, I was wondering if tools like narrative BI coming on the scene paired with BI are actually going to like save time for these like data analysts, because growth teams and knowledge workers are going to be going down these rabbit holes based off of the insight emails that they got, and they'll be less focused on asking those like pie in the sky type questions, and maybe the backlogs will get smaller in that sense. But yeah, curious your take there on this idea of, instead of like growth teams coming up with questions and like, we wish that we'd be able to monitor this or have these answers, they're focused on actually doing campaigns and growth stuff, and the insights come in from the product led stuff. And so like maybe it saves a bit of time from BI teams. Curious your take there.
Well, nothing wrong in being curious and trying to understand how your campaign work. And at the end of the day, marketers run those campaigns, so it's important to understand what performs best and where you can probably cut your spending or effort. But in order to solve this conflict, we plan to. Well, we're working on. So we recently launched LLM recommendations, which is one button. You don't actually need to ask questions. You just click one button, get LLM recommendation, and we try to provide additional context, trying to explain why something happened, trying to suggest some next steps. So you don't actually need to dig deeper. We try to provide this actionable recommendation. The next step for us is to make it more conversational, so you can ask some follow-up question. So I believe that BI teams are here to stay, but they just need to focus on more advanced, more impactful things.